Hello, we are doing lesson 3.7, equations of lines in the coordinate plane. So the first thing you want to do is get out your video notes. Here we have a vocabulary. We have 3 words. The first 3, point slope form, slope, and slope intercept form. And this should be a refresher. This should be familiar. You should have already seen this and done this. So now we're just going to make sure we understand it and know it well. So in this lesson, we're going to graph and write linear equations with certain facts about the line, such as a slope and a point of the slope. So let's go straight into our key concept. So our first key concept is slope. What is slope? So slope can be represented by the letter M. And slope M of a line is the ratio of the vertical change rise to the horizontal change run between any 2 points. So basically we can say slope equals M equals rise over run. So remember, you rise up and down. You run horizontally. Okay, equals delta change in y over change in x. This is a Greek letter called delta, and some of you are getting closer to college or have older siblings who may have pledged in a sorority or fraternity. They use Greek letters, and this is one of them. Equals the change of y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now remember, this is a fraction. It's also a division problem. It's also a ratio. Ratio can be represented in fraction form. So these are all the different ways to represent or say slope. But basically, we're going to use the letter M to represent slope equals, and this is our formula that we're going to use to solve for it. All right, so it's between any 2 points. We just have to have 2 points of the line. Now, a slope can be positive, negative, 0, or undefined. So the sign of the slope tells you whether the line rises or falls to the right. A slope of 0 tells you that the line is horizontal. And an undefined slope tells you that the line is vertical. And we'll talk more about these in a minute. So look at these two. These are called oblique lines, which means they're at a diagonal. They're neither vertical nor horizontal. They're at an angle. They can be at a really sharp angle. They can be at a really flat. And think of it as a person. You're going from left to right. So if I have a graph and my slope looks like this, okay, you're going to read. How do you read? You read from left to right. So you're going to start on the left side of the graph anywhere, and you can pretend like it's a little car or it's a person. And I'm just drawing stick people because that's all I know how to draw. And what is this person doing? They're going to the right. Are they going up or down? Well, in this occasion, they're going uphill. And when you think of up as positive, that's a positive slope. Likewise, if my slope was going down, going like this, again, I start on the left, and I got my little car with its little wheels, or I have my stick person. Okay, they are going downhill. Therefore, we have a negative slope. All right, so you always go from left to right. Think about how do you read? Do you read from right to left or left to right? Left to right. So that's how you can tell the slope is positive or negative. And then this, if it's a horizontal line, you're going to have a 0 slope. And if it's a vertical line, it's undefined. Let's look at the next 2 vocabulary words in the next key concept box, which is the forms of linear equations. So these are the equations to those lines. So we're going to learn 2 forms, slope-intercept form and point-slope form. In slope-intercept form of the equation, it's of a non-vertical line. It can be horizontal, and it can be oblique, but it cannot be a vertical line. So please note that these two are non-vertical lines. So the equation is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Now, let's look at this equation. So we have y equals mx plus b. Please note in this equation that m and b are real numbers, any real numbers, okay? These are real numbers. And we always keep the y and the x as a variable in the equation. So again, m tells us the slope of the line, and b tells us the y-intercept. So remember, y-intercept is a point where it's where the line crosses the y-axis. It's at some x comma y coordinate. And if it's a y-intercept, we know x is always going to be 0, and then you're going to have some y. Therefore, this b is the same thing as the y coordinate of the y-intercept. All right, then we have point slope of a non-vertical line. The equation is going to be y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where m is the slope and x1 comma y1 is some point on the line. All right, so x is the x-coordinate of that point and y is the y-coordinate. So point slope is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So here, y1, m, and x1 are your real numbers. Okay? And if we needed to graph this, this is the best way to graph, and we'll learn this probably in the next lesson. But you can always just note you can convert from this to that using algebra, and we'll talk about that later. But just know in the back of your mind that it can be done. All right, so those are the two equations that you need to learn. So saying that, let's move on to the first formula. So here, they're just deriving the formula of slope, and we'll just go through the book. We're not going to spend a lot of time. So in order to do that, so remember the slope of a line is the ratio of the vertical change to the ratio of the horizontal change between any 2 points. So the first thing is we need to find 2 points, x1 comma y1 and x2 comma y2. These numbers at the bottom are called subscripts. Instead of saying a and b, we're saying x1, x2. Hence, even though they both have x, because their subscripts are different, they're representing two different variables, like if I had an a and a b. Same thing with the y. So that's what that means if you don't know that. So we find 2 points and name them x1, y1, x2, y2. What you can't have is x2, y1. The subscripts have to be the same for the variable of the coordinate. And then we draw a line through them. Since the y-coordinate represents the values on the vertical line, the y-axis, we use a definition of the distance between 2 points to find the vertical change. So we're going to take y2, the difference between y2 minus y1. Then we do the same thing for the x-coordinates and find the distance from here to here on the x-axis. So we're going to take x2 minus x1. Then to find the slope, we determine the ratio of the vertical change, y2 minus y1, over x2, the horizontal change, x2 minus x1. So there's your slope formula. That's how they derived it. So let's use it. What is the slope of line B? So let's go to our video notes. Here, they want us to find the slope of line B. So where is line B? Line B is this red line. So first of all, we're going to determine 2 points. So we've got 2 coordinates here. We've got -1, comma 2, and we have 4, comma -2. It doesn't matter which ones we call which. So I'm just going to give them names, and I'm going to say x2, comma y1, 2. Sorry, remember they have to be the same, and x1, comma y1. And it doesn't matter which is which. I'm going to call the coordinate this -1, comma 2 the x2, y2 coordinates. And then I'm going to use the 4, comma -2 as the x1, y1. Now I'm going to put it in my formula. Remember, my formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2 is 2. I need to put my minus in before I even try to write y1. And I'll explain to you in a second why. And then we're going to do x2. You can't do x1. You have to stay in the same order. So x2, -1, minus x1. And the reason why I put this in, that's so important that I put the minus first and then the number in parentheses, because you have a minus minus. Remember, sign numbers, this becomes 2 plus 2 over -1 minus 4. Otherwise, if you subtract this, you would get 0. But it's really 2 plus 2, so it's 4 over -5, or simply -4/5 is my slope. Okay, so let's look at the next one. It says, what is the slope of line B? Or line D. So if you look at line D, it's a vertical line. What do we know about vertical lines? Well, we already said that a vertical line is undefined, but let's check it. So let's take 2 points. There's the points 4.0. Oops. So let's find our points. So we're going to do x2, comma, y2, and then x1, comma, y1. So let's find those numbers. So we're going to make this 4, comma 0. Like I said, it doesn't matter as long as you keep them together. 4, comma -2. So according to my formula, I'm going to have 4 minus, no, sorry. Let me retry, do this. 0 minus -2 over 4 minus 4. So I get 0 plus 2 over 4 minus 4, which I get 2 over 0. Now remember, we cannot have 0 at the bottom. This is undefined. And didn't we say in our chart that a vertical line, the slope was undefined? Okay. So let's look at the next one. They want us to write an equation. No, they want us to, what is the graph of y equals 2x, 2/3 x plus 1? Oops. So let's look at what that looks like. So we have the equation y equals 2/3 x plus 1. Well, what form is this in? This is in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. And what do we know about y equals mx plus b? We have a slope. So we know we have m is 2/3, and we have a b, or the y-intercept, at 1. So remember, the y-intercept is some coordinate where x is always 0. So technically, it's the coordinate 0, 1. Okay, so the first thing we do is we go to our graph, and we want to graph the y-intercept. So we know it's 0, comma 1. So 0, comma 1 is right here. So we always graph this first. Then we want our slope is +2 over +3. So remember, we're going to rise from that point 2 units, and then we're going to run 3 units. So we're going to start here, and we're going to go up 2, rise, and we're going to run 1, 2, 3. And if we wanted to, we could make both of these opposites. So -2, -3. So we could go here and go down 2, run 3 to the left. But all we need is 2 points, and then we take a ruler or a straight edge and make a straight line through them. All right, so let's try B. What is B? So B tells us, what is the graph of y minus 3 equals negative 2 times x plus 3? So our equation is y minus 3 equals negative 2 comma x plus 3. Well, this is point slope form. So remember, we've got a y1, we have an m, and we have an x1. So remember, the equation is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. All right, that's important. So let's start with the easy part, our slope. So our slope is negative 2. And then we have some point, which is an x1 comma y1. So remember, this is technically y minus positive 3. So y1 is going to be positive 3. Here, this can be rewritten as x minus negative 3. Okay, because remember my equation is minus, so I have to rewrite that. So x1 is negative 3. So now that I have those, I can go graph. I'll graph my point. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I'll graph my point. And because my slope is negative, it's a whole number, it's implied over positive 1. Or I could do their exact opposites and say positive 2 over negative 1. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to go down 1, 2, and I'm going to go to the right 1. Or I could have gone up 1, 2, and to the left 1. And then I simply connect my dots and draw my line. And that's how you would graph this equation. Let's look at problem number 4. They want us to write an equation. That's what they're implying. What is an equation of the line with the slope 3 and the y-intercept negative 5? So they give us a slope is negative 3, and they give us a y-intercept, which is b, of negative 5. So what equation uses those two things? Y equals mx plus b, which is slope-intercept form. Know the difference between slope-intercept form and point slope. Students think they sound the same, so they get them confused all the time. So remember that our only real numbers are m and b, and I have those, so now I can write my equation, and I can say y equals So I'm just going to put my values in here. So I've got y equals negative 3x minus 5 is my equation. And actually this is positive 3, sorry. Okay, so that is A. Let's look at B. It says, what is the equation of a line through, they give you a point, right? Negative 1 comma 5, and a slope of 2. So what equation gives you an x, y coordinate, a point, and a slope? That would be point slope. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So remember, these two are my real numbers here. So I'm going to go to my equation. My equation says y minus, and then what is y1? Again, write y minus and then parentheses, because if this is negative, that turns into a plus. And then 2 times x minus, what is x1? Negative 1. So we have y minus 5 equals 2 times, this becomes x plus 1. That's why we put the formula down and then put parentheses where we're inserting the number for a variable in case we have two negatives and it changes it to a positive. All right, let's look at that problem number 5. They want us to Write an equation to the line at the right. So we have to first find 2 points, exactly points on the coordinates, on the corners. All right, so we've got 2 points. So we've got x2 comma y2. It doesn't matter which set is x, the two subscripts 2 and which subscripts 1. So x1 comma y1. So I'm going to name this 3 comma 5 and negative 2 comma negative 1. So the first thing I have to do is I have to find my slope. And my slope, so it's going to be 5 minus negative 1 over 3 minus negative 2. So I get 5 plus 1 is 6, 3 plus 2 is 5. So my slope is 6/5. And then I've got 2 points. It doesn't matter which one. I'm going to choose the positive numbers as my x1, as my xy coordinate. So now I can put it in point slope. So y minus y1 or y2 is going to be 5 equals my slope times x minus 3. And there's your equation. Because they didn't tell you what form, they said just write an equation. All right, let's look at the next one. It says writing equations of vertical and horizontal lines. Okay, so here's a vertical line and a horizontal. Now, notice that in the horizontal line, that every point on this horizontal line through this point has a y coordinate of 4. So if I go here, it's going to be 1 comma 4, 0 comma 4, negative 1 comma 4, 4 comma 4, 3 comma 4. And it crosses the y-axis at 0 comma 4. Therefore, that equation to a horizontal line is always going to be y equals whatever that y coordinate is, 4. The vertical line is going to do the exact opposite. You see that every x coordinate, every point on here, the x coordinate is going to be 2. Therefore, the equation is x equals 2. And you see why this is not in the, when we talk about the two formulas, point slope and slope intercept, it includes everything but the vertical lines. Again, every x coordinate is going to be 2. All right, go ahead and stop this video and do the problems that are scheduled, and we'll see you in class.